Welcome to Module 2. In this module, we're going to examine performance analysis and specifically look at the question, how do we improve performance? And we might add to that, how do we improve employee performance? The module objectives for this are not quite as many as they were in Module 1, though they will tend to go into a little deeper analysis of the topics. The lecture will include insight into the following. The first thing we want to do is look at the definition and purpose of performance analysis. We then want to look at strategies for conducting a performance analysis and the issues and concerns relating to performance analysis. You might ask yourself, what is performance analysis? Well, performance analysis is about analyzing employee performance, looking at their current performance, comparing it to their desired performance. And performance analysis is often called gap analysis because it is assumed that there is a gap between current performance and what is desired. The performance analysis also looks at what employees should be doing to meet expectations. Emphasis is always on identifying and addressing the performance deficiency. Performance analysis is used to improve productivity in the workplace. Performance analysis often asks four very important questions. What is the perceived issue is the first question. What do we see as being of concern to us? Is this issue an employee skill deficiency? And if it is a skill deficiency, what strategies should be utilized to address the deficiency? And is training the appropriate way to fix the deficiency? Keep in mind that many sorts of needs exist. Performance analysis is utilized to address issues between current employee performance and desired employee performance. And I will point out to you that training is not always the way to fix a deficiency. As a matter of fact, training is only one of many ways to fix deficiencies between employee current performance and desired performance. There are strategies for conducting a performance analysis, and before conducting training, the question must be asked regarding the intended purpose of the training. To conduct training without knowing the purpose of the training is meaningless. Training is to improve employee performance, and if we're going to improve employee performance, we must know how the training is intended to do that. The trainer must agree to help the client reach an outcome rather than agree to conduct a training event. Again, a training event without a desired outcome is meaningless, and performance assessment is the key to establish a plan to achieve that outcome. Employee performance is very complicated. It is a very complicated phenomenon requiring extensive analysis. There is no one right strategy to improve performance, but there are many numerous wrong strategies which may be employed. We're going to examine several strategies which you may find useful in analyzing and enhancing employee performance. The first of these is the can, can't, will, won't performance analysis. Now, I want you to give this a little thought. Can, can't, will, won't. Let it sink in. Now, an employee can perform a desired task if the employee has the ability to do so. An employee will perform a desired task if the employee chooses to do so. To better understand these statements, allow me to rephrase them. An employee cannot perform a desired task if the employee lacks the ability to do so. An employee will not perform a desired task if the employee chooses not to do so. These possibilities can be used to create a powerful matrix. Can they or can't they do it? Are they able or not? Do they desire to? Will they or won't to? Let's look at this matrix. Now, in this matrix, I've already got a box filled in, but let's look across the top. They can do the task. They cannot do the task. Those are the options. They will do the task or they will not do the task. Can relates to their ability to do it. Will relates to their desire to do it. Now, sometimes you have the intersection of the best world. They can do the task and they want to do the task. And if there's a deficiency, look for another cause. And if they can do the task and they want to do the task and there's a deficiency, support those employees with time and resources and provide coaching. Now, another option is that they want to do the task, they choose to do it, but they can't do it. They're not able. For that, you need to conduct skill training to give them the skill sets they need, give them on-the-job training, provide the required resources, and if that deficiency continues, look for another cause that may be creating the deficiency. Now, suppose they can do the task, but they don't want to do it. They choose not to. Well, that's an attitude problem, and sometimes you need to identify the consequences of those actions. You need to provide feedback. There is such a phenomenon, it's called the Hawthorne effect. It just means that they know that you're watching, and when you provide feedback, it begins to bring about change. You provide coaching, and you supervise the practice that is occurring. If they can do it and choose not to, you've got to get the attitude, and then you've got to let them see that they are being observed and that they are being tracked and supervised. Now, here we have the conjunction or intersection of the worst worlds. They can't do the task, they lack the ability, and then they choose not to. Actually, this is a very common phenomenon. When employees find they lack the ability, then a lot of times they just choose not to walk that path. And if that happens, you need to give them the skills training to help them get the skills. You better discuss poor attitudes to get this attitude changed where they've chosen not to. Supervise practice, identify the benefits of compliance, and then investigate other problems which may be underlying this. Now, another way of doing an employee performance analysis, another strategy, is what's called barrier examination. Employees are very complex beings. As human beings, they have physical, emotional, and intellectual challenges. As human beings, we have physical, emotional, and intellectual challenges. Physically, I might want to run a marathon, but truth is, if I do, I better do it in a golf cart. Emotionally, I'm a lot more stable emotionally than a lot of these young people who are hitting all of these new hormones in their bodies. My old hormones have been here a long time and they're worn out. Sometimes we have intellectual challenges. Employees just may not have the skill sets. They may just simply not know how to do something, and they may not be able to learn it. Now, employees, at the same time that they have those physical, emotional, intellectual challenges, it must also be noted that they do not live in a vacuum. They experience personal, environmental, and informational issues. Analysis of these barriers and their cross effects is fundamental to improving employee performance. Now, I want you to consider the cross effects of the barriers upon employee performance as we shall develop them in the next slides. Here we have a matrix which examines the physical, emotional, and intellectual ranges against the personal challenges. Now, physical, we might refer to capacity. Do they have the ability? Emotional, we may look at their motivations and their motives. Intellectual, do they possess the skills and knowledge? Now, under the physical capacity and personal side, they need the strength, the dexterity, the stamina, the attentiveness, and the ability to learn in order to complete the task. And if they lack any of those, then they're in a no-win situation. If you're telling them to lift a 50-pound box and they can't pick up a 10-pound box, you're in trouble. If you expect them to learn something and they just don't have the ability to learn new information, then you have a problem. Under emotional, we get to thinking about such things as the reward system. And is that reward system internalized? What are their personal goals? Do they have initiative? Their personal value system plays into this. And if sometimes with this, you may need to investigate other issues. I've seen many a good employee who has been a very solid employee suddenly flake out to discover that they have something going on at home, and you just need a little patience with them. On the intellectual side, do they have the basic skills and the task-related skills to be successful? Do they know the procedures? Do they understand the systems in the institution? And then sometimes just other problems arise that you need to be aware of. A person may be suffering the underlying beginning stages of dementia or Alzheimer's. You never know what's going on intellectually. Now, under the environment, we look at the same physical, emotional, intellectual constraints. Physically, we're talking about resources in the environment, the emotional incentives in the environment, and intellectual, we're talking about procedures and methods. Now, under resources, you have to have enough personnel to do the task. If you don't have enough personnel and you got two people trying to run a battleship, then you got problems. They need the raw materials, supplies, equipment, space, support services required to do the job. The emotional issue here, the incentives are very important. A match of a mission and practice. So many times we see this great mission, which is articulated well and which is on posters and in cards in people's billfolds and they can quote it and all of that. The problem is that practice doesn't match the mission. An institution may say, we value ingenuity, but yet when you practice any ingenuity, you're terminated. Doesn't match. We need to reinforce the behaviors that we desire, and of course compensation must go with that. It has been said that money is not a motivator, and I think that basically that is true. Money does not motivate. You give someone a raise, in most cases, you give someone a raise, and they're not going to work all that much harder. But while money is not a motivator, the lack of money is a demotivator. You take a good employee and fail to give them a raise when you give other people a raise and see how it works in their emotional side and their desire to really get with it what incentive they have to be a productive employee. On the intellectual side, you need a clarity in the chain of command, realistic expectations, realistic procedures. They need access to decision makers and need to be involved in the decision-making process. And they need to see that they are valued employees. Guys, a non-valued employee who sees themselves as a non-valued employee isn't going to do much to help you close the gap between current practice and desired practice.